One of the biggest reasons it feels easier to stay is because of the comfort of familiarity. Think about it. Our brains are wired to seek patterns, to find solace in what feels predictable. When you've been with someone for months or even years, they become a part of your routine. They're your good mornings and your good nights. So walking away from that feels like tearing out a piece of your daily life. But here's where it gets tricky. Just because something is familiar doesn't mean it's good for you. A toxic relationship can feel like home simply because of what you've gotten used to. And here's the part most people don't realize. I've heard so many people say, I just want someone who feels like home. Now, on the surface, I understand that sentiment. Home should be safe, loving, and full of all the good things. But what if, for some people, home wasn't any of those things? What if their idea of home was chaos, criticism, or constant cycles of highs and lows? When you grow up in an environment where dysfunction is normalized, that dysfunction can feel like comfort as an adult. You might think you're chasing the warmth and the safety of home, but what you're actually gravitating toward is the chaos you've been conditioned to associate with love. Even when you know it's not what you want, even when you say you want better, that familiar toxicity pulls you in because it feels like the closest thing to home you've ever known. This is where healing comes in. Until you heal, you'll keep gravitating toward what feels familiar, even if it's hurting you. Healing allows you to redefine home. It allows you to recognize that home should be a place of peace, not a battlefield. It allows you to understand that love doesn't have to come with conditions, fear, or pain. So ask yourself, what does home mean to me? And more importantly, what is my definition of home? How is that aligned with the love and the life that I truly deserve? Because the moment you start to heal that toxic version of home, it stops feeling like the comfort and it starts feeling like the warning sign it was always meant to be. If familiarity is one reason to stay, fear of the unknown is on the other side of that coin. Leaving means stepping into uncertainty. It means asking questions like, what if I'm alone forever? What if no one else loves me? What if I made a mistake? And let's face it, those what ifs can feel like a storm cloud hovering over every area of your life and your thoughts. Our minds are designed to protect us from risk, and walking away feels like the ultimate gamble. Staying feels like a sure thing, even when it's draining and it's causing you to lose your peace and your happiness. But let me tell you, the unknown isn't your enemy. It's your opportunity. It's where your potential lives. Think of it this way. When you plant a seed in the ground, you don't know exactly how it will grow or how many flowers it will bloom, but you plant it anyway because you believe in its potential. The same thing goes for you. The life waiting for you outside of this relationship might be unpredictable, but it's full of possibilities that you can't even imagine yet. Don't let fear of the unknown keep you rooted in a place where you no longer thrive. The potential. Potential is one of the sneakiest traps when it comes to staying in a relationship that's run its course. You don't just see them for who they are, you see them for who they could be. You hold on to those what ifs. What if they change? What if they finally see my worth? What if they become the partner that I've been waiting for all along? But here's the harsh truth. Potential is just that, an illusion of what could be, not a guarantee of what will be. And when you invest in potential, you're gambling with your time, your energy, and your heart. People don't change because you love them enough. They change because they choose to. And if they haven't chosen to change by now, what are you really waiting for? Imagine staring at a wilted flower, watering it every day, hoping it'll bloom again. Sometimes the soil is too damaged, the roots are too weak, and the flower has already lived its season. Your love isn't a magic potion that will fix what's broken in them. Don't let the illusion of potential keep you chained to someone who isn't meeting you where you deserve to be met. One of the most addictive parts of staying is the cycle of hope and disappointment. You have good days, days when they say the right thing, do the right thing, and you think, Maybe this time is different. Those moments of hope are like breadcrumbs that you keep following the trail, even if it leads to nowhere. But then disappointment comes. They revert back to their old patterns, and you're left picking up the pieces of your shattered expectations. The cycle continues, and each time you think, maybe next time it'll stick. Here's the thing about cycles, they don't break themselves. You have to be the one to step off the hamster wheel and say, enough. Don't let the temporary highs blind you to the consistent lows. You deserve someone who doesn't make you question their love every other day. Someone who doesn't keep you stuck in a loop of false hope and broken promises. Attachment runs deep. It's in our biology. When you bond with someone, your brain releases chemicals like oxytocin, often called the love hormone, and this chemical connection can make it incredibly hard to let go, even when you know it's what's best for you. It's like being tied to them with invisible strings. Every memory, every shared moment, every inside joke becomes another knot in the rope. Cutting those strings feels like cutting a part of yourself, and that's why it's hard to leave. But here's what you need to understand. Attachment is a process, not a prison. Just as you bonded with them over time, you can detach over time too. It starts with recognizing that your worth isn't tied to their presence. You are whole on your own, and you don't need someone else to complete you. It's easy to look back and remember the good times, the laughs, the love, and the moments that made your heart skip a beat. But when you're trying to leave, those memories can become a trap. You start to think, maybe it wasn't so bad, or we had some really good times. But let me tell you, if the good outweighed the bad, you wouldn't be trying to leave in the first place. Nostalgia is a liar. It shows you the highlights and hides all the hurt. Don't let a romanticized version of the past keep you from moving forward. Focus on the reality of the present and the vision you have for your future. Remember, you can't build a healthy future on a broken foundation. When it all boils down to it, a big reason why it's easier to stay and harder to leave isn't because of the person themselves, it's the promises they made, it's the words they said, the future that they painted for you, and the emotions tied to those visions. You're not holding on to them. You're holding on to what they told you, what they made you believe was possible. And that's a powerful thing. Promises have a way of embedding themselves deep within us, creating this sense of false hope that maybe, just maybe, if you stay a little longer, those promises will finally be fulfilled. But here's the hard truth. Promises are only as valuable as the actions that follow them. If someone has continually showed you that their words don't align with their behavior, it's not hope you're holding on to, it's a fantasy. And letting go of that fantasy is hard. I know it because it means accepting that the version of the relationship you've been clinging to doesn't exist. It's not about giving up on them, it's about giving up on the illusion of what you thought it could be. And let's go deeper. Another reason it's easier to stay is the fear of someone else benefiting from all the work you put in. You think about the time, the energy, the sacrifices you made for this person, and the thought of walking away, just the thought of walking away, feels like losing all of that investment. You imagine them turning around and giving you everything you worked for to someone else, and that fear alone can keep you stuck. But here's what you need to understand. Love isn't a transaction. It's not about what you deserve because of what you gave. It's about what you receive and whether it aligns with the respect and care you deserve. Letting go isn't about forfeiting what you worked for. It's about reclaiming what you lost along the way. Your peace, your energy, and your self-worth. It's about realizing that staying out of fear or obligation is only robbing you of the chance to attract something real, something reciprocal, something fulfilling. Remember, promises without action are just words, and no amount of waiting will turn them into reality if the person isn't willing to meet you halfway. Leaving someone you care about requires more than just physical separation. It requires emotional discipline. And that's where many people struggle. Emotional discipline is the ability to manage your feelings in a way that aligns with your long-term well-being rather than succumbing to temporary impulses. The challenge is most people aren't taught how to be emotionally disciplined. Instead, we're encouraged to follow our hearts, to chase what feels good in the moment, even if it's to our own detriment. So, what is emotional discipline? It's not about shutting off your emotions or pretending that they don't exist. It's about acknowledging them without letting them dictate your actions. Emotional discipline is when you feel the pull to text them late at night, but you stop yourself because you know responding to that urge will only set you back. It's when you want to check their social media, but you resist because you understand that every scroll keeps you tied to their world. It's learning to sit with your pain instead of numbing it with distractions or running back to the very person who caused it. Here's the thing, emotional discipline takes practice. It's like building a muscle. At first, it feels impossible. You'll want to give in to every thought, to every memory, every craving to be near them. But over time, as you train yourself to pause, reflect, and make decisions from a place of clarity rather than emotion, it gets easier. And with that discipline comes power, the power to take back control of your life and to move forward without looking back. Many people don't even realize they lack emotional discipline until they're forced to leave a situation that's bad for them. They think, why can't I just move on? Why do I keep going back? The truth is, they've been operating on autopilot, letting their emotions drive the car. Emotional discipline is about grabbing the wheel and deciding where you're going, no matter how loud the backseat driver or their feelings get. It's not easy, but it's necessary. And here's where it gets even deeper. Emotional discipline is a skill that serves you far beyond relationships. It's the foundation of self-control, resilience, self-respect, and it teaches you how to prioritize your peace even when it's hard. It teaches you that every action you take, every decision you make is a reflection of the love you have for yourself. When you practice emotional discipline, you're not just leaving a relationship, you're stepping into a version of yourself that's stronger, wiser, and more aligned with the future you deserve. So ask yourself, are you ready to be in control of your emotions, or will you let them control you? One of the most powerful tools you have when trying to leave a relationship is your perspective. How you view the situation shapes how you experience it. Think of perspective as a lens through which you see the world. Change the lens, and the entire picture changes with it. The problem is, when we're emotionally attached to someone, our perspective tends to be skewed by our feelings. We romanticize the good times and we convince ourselves that leaving is the worst possible outcome. But in reality, shifting your perspective can reveal that staying might actually be more harmful than letting go. Here's an analogy. Imagine you're holding onto a rope tied to a heavy weight that's dragging you deeper into the water. You're afraid to let go because you believe the rope is the only thing keeping you afloat. But the truth is, the rope isn't saving you. It's the very thing pulling you under. Letting go feels terrifying because you've convinced yourself you need it. But once you release it, you realize you can swim on your own. In the same way, shifting your perspective allows you to see that staying tied to a toxic situation is what's holding you back, not saving you. An example of this could be someone who constantly says, but I love them and they love me. That statement might feel true, but love alone does not guarantee a healthy relationship. Shift your perspective to ask yourself, what does their love look like? Does it honor me, respect me, and help me grow? If the answer is no, then love isn't enough. Shifting your perspective means acknowledging that love should add to your life, not deplete it. It's about recognizing that staying in a toxic situation for the sake of love is like drinking poison because you're thirsty. It might feel like it's helping in the moment, but it's ultimately harming you. Another way to shift your perspective is to focus on the long term instead of the short term. In the moment, leaving might feel like a failure or a loss. You might think, I've invested so much time and energy into this person. If I leave, it'll be all for nothing. But shift your perspective and ask yourself, what happens if I stay another year? Another 5 years? Will I be closer to the life I want or further away? When you focus on the future, it becomes easier to see that letting go isn't losing, It's gaining the freedom to build a better life. Consider this: your attachment to someone often has more to do with your unmet needs than the person themselves. This is why, to outsiders, the attachment often makes no sense. How many times have you heard people say, "What does she even see in him?" Or, "Why is he losing himself over her?" And truthfully, from the outside, the person might not appear to have anything extraordinary to offer. Maybe they're not conventionally attractive. Maybe they don't bring stability or support to the table. And maybe, just maybe, all they bring is chaos and heartbreak. But here's the catch: your attachment to them isn't about their qualities or lack thereof. It's about the void they temporarily fill within you. Unmet needs often blur our ability to see people for who they really are. When you're yearning for validation, attention, or love, your subconscious isn't seeking logic or reason, it's seeking relief. You don't notice the red flags or the absence of true connection because, in your mind, they've become the solution to a deeper wound. Maybe they make you feel noticed in a way you haven't felt in years. Maybe their attention feels like a balm on the scars of rejection or abandonment that you've been carrying. And in those moments, the qualities or flaws that they bring to the table don't even register. What registers is how they make you feel, even if it's fleeting. And here's the tricky part: unmet needs magnify our perception of someone. That's why you'll see someone attach themselves to a partner who doesn't give them peace or stability, but still feel like they can't walk away. It's because in their mind, this person represents something bigger than themselves: fulfillment, safety, comfort, even if it's just an illusion. When you're desperate for connection or validation, even breadcrumbs can feel like a feast. But the problem with breadcrumbs is they're never enough to truly nourish you. So the real question isn't, what do you see in them? The real question is, what void in you are they feeling? When you can identify that, you can start to understand why you're holding on, to begin to address those needs in a way that doesn't rely on someone who can't or won't meet them. Because here's the truth: the attachment isn't about them, it's about you. And that's where the work begins. This is why healing and self-awareness are so important, because the answers you're searching for, the patterns you keep repeating, and the attachments you can't seem to break away from all begin and end with you. And here's the part that makes so many people shy away from healing: it's uncomfortable. True healing requires accountability, and accountability forces you to look inward. It's easier to point the finger outward, to blame the ex, to blame the circumstances, or even the world. But healing says, let's pause and ask, what role did I play in my own suffering? And for most people, that's terrifying. Some people prefer to skip healing altogether. They convince themselves they're fine, and then that they've moved on, that counseling or therapy isn't for them. But here's the reality: avoiding healing doesn't erase the wounds, it just buries them. And buried wounds have a way of resurfacing when you least expect it, through another relationship, another toxic pattern, or another cycle of self-sabotage. When you refuse to heal, you're essentially choosing to carry the weight of your pain into every future interaction, every decision, and every opportunity. Accountability is where the breakthrough begins. It's about admitting to yourself, I allowed this behavior, or I stayed when I should have left, or even I ignored the signs because I wanted the fantasy more than the reality. That doesn't mean blaming yourself for how someone treated you, but it does mean owning the choices you made afterward, whether it was holding on too long, not enforcing your boundaries, or trying to change someone who didn't want to change. Accountability isn't punishment, it's power. It puts the control back into your hands. Because once you acknowledge your role, you can take steps to ensure you don't repeat it. And this is why looking inward is so uncomfortable. It removes the shield of external blame. It forces you to ask the hard questions, to face uncomfortable truths about your insecurities, your fears, and the ways you've been complicit in your own unhappiness. But the discomfort is necessary, because it's through that discomfort that growth happens. Just like a muscle being stretched and strengthened through resistance, Your emotional resilience grows when you sit with the hard truths and you commit to doing the work. Healing is not about perfection, it's about progression. It's about saying, I'm willing to face the parts of me I've been avoiding because I know I deserve better. It's about acknowledging that you can't control the past, but you can shape your future. It's about reclaiming your power, not through blame or anger, but through understanding, self compassion, and a commitment to never settle for anything less than what aligns with your peace and your purpose. Leaving means stepping into the unknown, but that's where growth happens. The unknown is where you find yourself, where you discover your strength, and where you create a life that aligns with your worth. Trust that God has something better for you. Trust that God's timing is perfect. And trust that the peace you're looking for is waiting on the other side of letting go. Think about it. If your hands are full of all the wrong things, how can you ever receive the right ones? If your heart is consumed by someone who doesn't value it, how can you create room for someone who will? Letting go isn't an act of defeat, it's an act of courage. It's you saying, I trust what's meant for me will find me, and I refuse to hold on to what's not. But here's something even deeper to consider. Letting go isn't the final step, it's the first. The first step toward rediscovering yourself, toward redefining your boundaries, toward rewriting your story. Because here's the thing, the person you're letting go of isn't the only chapter in your book. They're not the beginning, and they're certainly not the end. They're just a part of your story. And your story, it's still being written. So what will you write in your story next? Will it be a story of holding on to pain or a story of rising above it? Will it be a story of regret or a story of resilience? Will it be a story of waiting for someone else to validate you or a story of rediscovering your worth from within? The pen is in your hands and every day is a blank page. And as you close this chapter, remember this. The process of letting go isn't about erasing the past. It's about honoring it for what it taught you, for how it shaped you, and for the strength it gave you to move forward. Every tear, every sleepless night, every moment of doubt, it's all a part of the journey. But the journey doesn't end there. It continues. It's leading you to something greater than what you were leaving behind. So as we wrap this up, I want you to take a moment and reflect on this. Who will you be after you let this go? What will you make space for? And what will you continue to carry forward? And what will you choose to leave behind? These are the questions that will shape your next chapter, your next love, and your next version of you. And if you're still afraid of the unknown, afraid of starting over, afraid of letting go, remember this. Nothing you're walking away from is greater than what you're walking toward. Seriously, thank y'all for allowing me to walk with you through this journey. If this message resonated with you, if it touched something deep within you, let me know in the comments. Let's keep the conversation going. So until next time, just remember that you're not losing, you're growing. You're not breaking, you're evolving. And most importantly, you are not in this alone, I promise you. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see y'all in the next one. Love y'all. Bye.